Boom to the hay, all you sports fans out there in the tubosphere, or to you, the individual, as part of the collective. Welcome to Fast Track Sports Rack, highlights here on talk radio version of the OMSR. I am your brief but very concise host, Will, the alternative ESPN Sports Thrills. Some of you, a lot of you, repeat viewers, at least sub-wise, know by now, I always do a little voiceover intro show like this, let you know the clip order coming up, and the wise to what for. So we got 2 shows, 4 parts. You know we are based on the title, but the title cannot contain all of the descriptive elements. So, briefly and concisely. Show 1, parts 1 and 2. Jameis Winston and his insurance policy. Smart move. University of Florida and their Legends calendar. Dumbass move. PR debacle with Aaron Hernandez on there. With the caveat things were set in motion before all that brouhaha went down at this time last year. That stuff is covered on the channel as well on the Pala Tai Chi playlist. Then in show 2, parts 1 and 2, we got the group of death and the group of life floating around on a fluffy cloud, making it easy to win a division championship. Yeah, I think that's always the case. Quickie Sport Rant is going to be about how CFB Live and the OMSR seem to be joined telepathically, because I did make a comment about, you know, can we do away with the in the lounge with CFB Live? Maybe Bob Costas will stop by with some of his more Olympic montage type elements as I wave my hand. Okay, enough of that. Boom, they changed over to the This Is College Football Live set, the set. So hear me out on that Sport Rant. You know we are based on the title. This is the baseline show. You can fast forward if you want to come back and see the other parts. Good stuff going on. In the meantime, real quick.
Keeping a close eye on the soccer game. I got my scarf, my rally scarf, watching the U.S. men's team. And everybody knows they had to advance through the group of death to get to this round of 16. So we decided to kind of take things in our own hands and look at our own college football standings and say, all right, who has the toughest road to a conference championship? We took the liberty of whittling it down to 2 divisions between the SEC West and the Pac-12 North. So let's take a look at how they stack up over the past 3 seasons. Both of these divisions have sent 5 teams to BCS Bowls, but the SEC West has the slight lead of 16-13 and an advantage in winning percentage as well. Now, if you put me to the task and said, all right, who is the better conference or the better division? Of course, I would say that SEC West, but I don't think it's as much of a slam dunk when you really start to dig into it and look at some of the results and head-to-head matchups. Over. You think it is a landslide?
Landslide.
All right, so if it's a landslide,
had 7 teams in the last 7 national championships.
So if it's a landslide,
5 champions. Once there were 2 teams from the same division. What are the odds?
Well, they definitely get favorable. Well, that's because you put in somebody who doesn't win the conference into the championship. So they definitely get favorable outcomes and put in favorable situations because of their strength. But if it is a slam dunk, as you say, how do you think one of the poorer teams from the Pac-12 North would do against the representative, the SEC champion for last season? Because Washington State took Auburn in Auburn to the wire. It was 31-24. So I agree with you. I'm just trying to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit and look at the strength of both of these conferences. I think the SEC gets a lot of love for this grunt, the grind of the schedule and knocking heads. And when a team is 500, it's because they've been going through this gauntlet. When the Pac-12 North,
really simple. The best players are in the Southeast, and most of the best players go to the SEC West. Louisiana, Alabama, Texas.
Well, I know from a per capita standpoint, LSU, being in Louisiana, it's the #1 state in the country for producing NFL talent on a per capita basis. You look at LSU over the last couple years, I believe up until this season or before this season, they had 19 underclassmen drafted in the previous 2 years, and the Big 12 and the Big 10 had like 22 combined, okay? It's not even close. I think when you look top to bottom, you look at Alabama, you look at LSU, you look at Auburn,
so we just talked about LSU.
Mississippi State,
LSU.
Texas A&M.
Right. No, I'm top to bottom. So, but hear me out. So LSU, great, all this talent in the world they have. So they should blow out Arkansas. They almost lost to Arkansas at the end of the season.
That transitive property stuff doesn't always work.
You don't think so? But but it should. If it's clear. But what my argument is, if it's such a slam dunk argument, then they would just roll through the guys that they're supposed to blow out.
Texas A&M had the 4th best recruiting class in the nation in the most recent recruiting class.
Right.
But they were the third best in their own division.
So, but again, looking at the next season, when you look into it, Texas A&M, how are they going to be? Because they're not going to have Johnny Manziel. We know how atrocious their defense was last year. If they don't make drastic improvements, they're going to be just another run-of-the-mill 500 team. But because they had this run, it adds to that strength of schedule. Look, I mean, the Pac-12 North, you've got perennial powerhouse Oregon. Granted, they've embarrassed themselves on the national stage, but they're still there. Stanford, all of a sudden, has been a national powerhouse year in and year out. And Washington, with Chris Peterson at the helm, they could be a player. Top to bottom, it's not even close.
What was the last program from that division to win a national
I know, because you told me before the show.
Washington,
when was the time they got two teams named after them playing?
Yeah, 1991.
And what does that have to do with this year?
Well, it just shows you that for a long period of time, the SEC has dominated. It just
they absolutely have, and they've gotten guys in the title game and they've taken care of business. But when you talk about players, the ACC had the second most drafted players in the NFL, and I wouldn't put them as the second most powerful conference. So there's different ways you can look at it.
I spoke to a coach in the SEC West today who said, here's all you need to know about how the people in our division feel about each other. The band members hate each other. And the bands have more than 300 people.
Nobody's arguing the passion, the tailgating, and all that. But I think the gap is closing as far as when you look at conference supremacy. Oh, no doubt about it. All right, well, we kind of nailed the group of depth to depth, so to speak. Let's look at the group of life. That's coming up next. That one will probably be a little bit more. Down the group of death. Let's flip it over. We also, we kind of took some discretion, and we also added a group of life. Let's look at which divisions in college football have the easiest path, the cakewalk to a conference title. All right, check these two out, the ACC Coastal and the Big Ten West. The last 3 years since the ACC Coastal has came into existence, it hasn't looked pretty for them or the Big Ten West. The current members of these two have combined for just 8 bowl wins in the last 3 years, and those 14 teams have enjoyed just 10 total win seasons. Look, either one of these are definitely down in the dumps. I mean, both of them, neither one looks strong. But for me, I look at Wisconsin, and I think they have a cakewalk into the Big Ten championship game. You look at ACC Coastal, I think it's a different story. I think some teams could rise up and present some challenges.
All due respect to Duke and the fine job that David Cutcliffe, Kurt Roper, the offensive staff did there. Duke was in the ACC championship game. That tells you the first thing you need to know about the Coastal. Second thing you need to know is that Miami, a traditional power, has never
harsh. That was a good team last year.
ACC championship game. The third thing you need to know, and there's only 3 on my list, is that the ACC Coastal was 1-13 against top 30 opponents last year. So the bottom line is this division has struggled. There's a reason why the ACC considered going to that one conference division, because that way you could have Florida State maybe play Clemson in the championship game and have a better matchup.
Well, here's the thing, though. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a cakewalk in the Big Ten West. I mean, you're talking about Nebraska. You're talking about Iowa. Iowa had a good performance against LSU in the bowl game a year ago. Of course, Nebraska beats Georgia in the bowl game, which was a bit of a surprise, considering Taylor Martinez was injured at that time. So, the reason I think, though, that it's a lighter schedule is that I look at the ACC and I kind of see this as a situation where I just think they're going to be better. You look at North Carolina, you look at Miami, you look at Virginia Tech. I just think that these are teams on the upswing. I wouldn't call it a cakewalk in the Big Ten West, but I think when you look at that, you look at the ACC Coastal, it's a little bit tougher, I think, top to bottom.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Miami is coming. No doubt that North Carolina is proving. Pittsburgh, by the way, the one team in that division that had to win, it was against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the only quality win for the entire ACC.
And you look at Virginia Tech, I mean, Frank Beamer, he's not going to have another down year. Bud Foster's going to have that defense going. It might be better for them to kind of be past the Logan Thomas era. Georgia Tech, another team. Paul Johnson, they've had some down years. He's going to have things ready to go. For me, I think it's ACC Coastal is a little bit tougher, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And also, you look at just sheer talent-wise, and we talked about it with the SEC being one of the reasons they're powerful. The ACC does have a lot of talented players that get drafted, the second most of any other conference in there. But for whatever reason, they have struggled. And I think it's an image problem, and I think John Swofford has to deal with it, and especially with the Coastal. When I looked at the realignment of the conferences when Louisville came over, I shook my head at why couldn't they find a way to put Louisville in this division, one that really needs it, or while you had an opportunity, while you're shaking things up, why not get Clemson away from Florida State? Because it seems like those are the best matchups, and they're division rivals. You don't even get to see.
To be fair, the Big Ten kind of can't win, right? Because when they set up the divisions the first time,
well, they
tried to split them. That's true. But they also tried to split them based on like traditional history of success. And they were criticized for that. They said, well, you got to use geography. And it turns out when you use geography, all the best teams are on one side.
Right. It almost seems like there's a no-win situation. Well, for Big Ten, a couple new members, Rutgers and Maryland. Do either of them have a chance to win?
All right. Informative, entertaining things being portrayed there. Gotta love Danny Cannell. If you're watching part 1, was that part 2? I've already lost track of myself. With the flag draped over. Doing the, yeah, that's part 2. Doing the, well, if we're concerned, we're paying attention to, as many Americans were yesterday, this being Wednesday, yesterday, Tuesday, USA, Belgium, with the flag. They're on the set. Awesome stuff. All right, quickie sport rant. So it's not like I'm suggesting ESPN takes their cues from me. Oh, no. Other way around. There's not a reciprocal relationship going on here. However, if you miss college football live, which I wholeheartedly recommend watching, or you're not able to watch it again in repeat mode on ESPNU, you can always come to the OMSR. Gives you a great alternative because I pinpoint different subject matter and break it or split it off into 2 separate shows. Not only because it makes it more precise based on what you want to see, but you can't borrow from any one source too much. Vis-a-vis the OMSR sponsor being the DMCA, minimal use, fair use standard, and all that jazz. But there's a reason why the show just the other day, which would be Monday, because I was just having a hard time with the last 2 weeks. You know, the lag time between the show done yesterday, which may in fact be the last time they ever did this, in the lounge. Sitting there on the couches, socks riding up high, no ties. No. Leave that sort of stuff for Sports Nation. This is college football live. They came back to the set. And they probably made that decision before I was able to throw in my 2 cents worth. But I dare say there's no one else on YouTube who does a pro bono sports show who puts in as much time and effort into profiling and highlighting college football live. Because, let's face it, when it comes to college sports, the OMSR focusing on the big 2 of FB and BB is where it's at. Heaven is August to the national championship in the tournament. Wait a week, it starts all over again. So I'm glad to see they went back to that. Telepathically, all I'm suggesting is what I was thinking is what they were thinking. They made the changes. All the video highlights courtesy to ESPN and College Football Live. Everything else to the OMSR. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching those silly DUIs while you're out there. Still watching the World Cup. Still worthy of being watched. Even though our guys had a good outing, but they're out. Be able to celebrate the 4th of July here with the rest of us. It's a win-win despite the loss. We are there out there.